There is over $17 billion worth of liquidity to be grabbed if Bitcoin makes its way to all-time highs from here. I don't think that will necessarily happen, but in today's video I'll be explaining why I think we could be seeing more upside in this market before a potential correction. If you enjoy the content, make sure to smash that like button and subscribe. Without further ado, let's jump right into the video. So first, looking at the liquidity here, you can see that on the right we have just over $17 billion worth of cumulative short liquidation leverage if Bitcoin is to make its way to $125,000. On the left here, if Bitcoin were to go to below 100K, we have around 3.53 billion worth of cumulative long liquidation leverage. So you can see that shorts are definitely dominating the market. And I'm telling you right now, this is not the area where you want to go aggressively short on Bitcoin. If you would have shorted Bitcoin, it should have been higher around these regions. Now, just to give you a little bit of a recap of what happened, and we've been covering this on the channel at length, but right here, when Bitcoin broke below this range, I told you that I was going long, and if you're in some of my premium groups, you know exactly what we did. We made some nice profits on the way up to all-time highs. Then, since essentially sweeping that previous all-time high around 123.2K, we made it all the way up to 124.5K, crashing right back down. And then we tapped into a very critical level, which was these previous wicks that you can see right here. We tapped into it, then we had the Jackson Hole event, and this was the area where I said we would likely see Ethereum make an all-time high if Bitcoin were to bounce. Bitcoin got a very nice bounce back to the top of this range, and of course, which we've been covering on the channel at length, Ethereum went ahead and made a new all-time high, only $40 away from $5,000. And you can see that I'm still actually in this trade with my stop loss now at break even. I am actually anticipating for Ethereum to break $5,000 if Bitcoin goes ahead and grabs the liquidity to the upside. So what is next? You can see that we keep on respecting this range. We actually wicked down to 108.7K, but I still remained a little bit more bullish than bearish so long as we can continue to hold this range. Now, Bitcoin did wick to a critical level, which was the previous level that we held as support around the Jackson Hole event, fueling us to the top of this range. So what am I looking at here? First of all, if we are to see upside for Bitcoin at this point in time, I think that 1, Ethereum will continue to outperform, and 2, altcoins will likely get a little bit more relief. Every time we confirm within this range, it's a good risk to reward to go long on altcoins, assuming we can hold the bottom of the range. Now that is key because I don't think that this range will be lasting forever. And actually, my base case is that we will eventually break down as per the September correction thesis that I've been talking about on the channel at length. But right now, what am I looking for? First of all, for continuation, we need to hold above $112,000. The reason why that level is so important is not only because of these wicks here and then the Jackson Hole event, which sent us higher, but if I zoom out, you can see that this actually coincides with the previous all-time high, a crucial level for Bitcoin. Right now, we wicked below there, and we're in this massive zone where there's a ton of volume, and we held at the bottom of the range. So, if Bitcoin is to confirm back above 112K and it looks something like this, and we start going higher and higher and higher, grabbing all of this liquidity to the upside, because remember, most of the longs in the market on the 2-week time frame are right around 120K. If we make it all the way up here, a ton of shorters will be getting wrecked. However, just a quick note there, I do need to share this chart, which on the 24-hour time frame, you can see that a lot of people started piling into longs. But overall, the majority of the liquidity is to the upside to be grabbed, and I think it would shake out a lot of people that have been calling for the bear market here. So I want to see Bitcoin confirm back above $112,000, and we would likely see some more outperformance from Ethereum and altcoins. We have some pretty important events this week, and I'll get into that a little bit later, but I really want to see us hold above 112K, and if we are to grab that liquidity to the upside, if Bitcoin makes it back above $115,000 to $118,000, right around that range, we don't need much. Ethereum will be moving much, much higher. You can see here that on the 4-hour time frame, Bitcoin closed a red candle, and if I take a look at ETH and I zoom out, ETH closed a red candle, but it's obviously much less severe than Bitcoin. And if we take a look at the ETH Bitcoin chart, it paints the exact same picture. When we get any kind of drastic correction and people are freaking out thinking that the bottom of this range will not hold, that is when Bitcoin actually outperforms Ethereum. But when we bounce from the bottom of the range, as we've been covering on the channel at length, ETH continues to outperform Bitcoin, which is why I keep on saying if Bitcoin can go ahead and move higher and we have enough strength to do so, then Ethereum will likely be surpassing $5,000. It's quite a shame that so far we only came within $40 of it, but let's see what happens. As I shared with you, my positions are currently in some nice profits, and if you want to trade with me, you do have the links in the description down below. You have weeks where you can earn a $10,000 free Ethereum airdrop position if you are to deposit that same amount of capital on the exchange. Make sure to sign up because that's actually where I have one of my big positions open. And we also have a brand new fantastic promotion for Bluffin. Now this one you'll want to pay attention to. Look, most of the time these exchanges will give you capital to trade with, and whatever profits you make with that capital, you can of course withdraw. But in this case, if you are a regular trader, you can actually get free Ethereum withdrawable, and that is basically by trading as you normally would. As you can see here, if you make a net deposit over $500 and you start generating some volume, you can get up to $30 worth of Ethereum and a $50 future bonus. Now this $30 you get completely for free. And if you have a little bit more capital, if you deposit $7,000, you can see that you can get up to $2,000 worth of Ethereum for free if you go ahead and trade as you normally would. Now these numbers may seem big, 5 million in volume, 7 million in volume, 20 million in volume, but it really isn't that big if you use leverage and you trade as you normally would. Don't force yourself, but ultimately if you're already generating volume, you might as well take advantage of these bonuses and get free Ethereum that you can withdraw and hold in preparation for a much larger leg at the end of this bull market cycle. And if you want to take advantage of this, you have the second link in my description down below, which brings you directly to Bluffin. And yes, if you've already signed up with me and you're already trading on there, you can definitely partake in this campaign and get free Ethereum, up to $2,000 worth of free Ethereum for trading as you normally would. Now, back to the charts. So as I said, all I want to see here is for Bitcoin to reclaim $112,000. And at that point in time, we can expect a little bit further upside, and this could push ETH past $5,000. However, I need to talk about the bearish case scenario, and that is the fact that if we start losing this range once more, then at that point we may need to consider that Bitcoin could be heading much lower, and perhaps we're front running the September correction. The reason I'm talking about this is because if you've been following me on the channel over the past few weeks and months, I talked about how we would likely get some kind of September correction, and we've been covering this at length. However, the only little thing that's worrying me here is the fact that I'm seeing a lot of people on Twitter, on YouTube, now talking about a potential September correction. And so, if the majority thinks that this correction would come, then it's at that point that we likely wouldn't see it. So, I'm going to be monitoring the situation very closely, but right now you can see that August is indeed red, which is not typical for post-halving years. If August is red, perhaps September would be green. That being said, we still have a few days of August, and if Bitcoin were to pump above 115.7K and we close above there, then at that point, August would indeed be green. So let's see what happens here. Lots of shorts piling into the market. A reclaim of 112K could send us higher for Bitcoin. And of course, we would be seeing Ethereum likely breaking past $5,000. Now, we've been pretty spot on with these trades lately, so we'll have to see how it materializes. Now, from a spot positioning, I am still mostly in Bitcoin and Ethereum with some stables on the side. I have not sold any Bitcoin yet this cycle, and I also have not sold any Ethereum that we picked up near the lows below $1,500. So ultimately, I'm still holding. I do think that ETH will break 5K, even if it isn't in this upcoming week, and say we get a correction. I don't think that this is the end of the bull market, and I think that ETH could easily find its way between $5,000 to $7,000, as I have said regularly on the channel. By the way, if you want some insights as to how I'm trading the market, entering positions like I showed you right here, or even some spot positioning, you do have the first link in my description down below, which brings you to my free Telegram community. DM me the word premium on Telegram and I would be happy to onboard you completely for free. If you signed up with one of my affiliate exchange links, you're good to go and I can add you into that group completely for free. And looking at USDT dominance, I wanted to provide a quick update here because you can see that we did indeed bounce from the level that we highlighted a few videos ago, and that is right around the 4%. Now, bounces on USDT dominance is ultimately not what we want to see because the lower that USDT dominance goes, the higher that the rest of the crypto market can go. So you can see that we held support at 3.994%, and right now we are currently holding this trend line as support. And I'll remind you, as I zoom out, this line has held as support since all the way back in 2017. So I would not fade it. If we continue to bounce here, then ultimately we would likely see further correction for Bitcoin and the rest of the crypto market. But right now, my base case remains the same. I still think that getting this kind of move from the low is positive, but we need to see some continuation. Otherwise, if we start trickling on lower and flirting with this range more and more, I do think that we will break. We also have a pretty notable level down below, which is the bull market support band between 106.5 to now 107.5K. And historically, if we are still in a bull market, we tend to hold this level as support before moving higher. And just taking a quick look at the Bitcoin spot ETF, you can see that the inflows are resuming, 200 million and then 88 million yesterday. And looking at ETH, once again, the inflows are much, much larger than Bitcoin, therefore contributing to Ethereum's outperformance against Bitcoin. Again, if we get the bounce that we're looking for, we confirm above $112,000, I do think that Ethereum will be outperforming Bitcoin as we have been seeing over the past few months. And on chain, we can also see that there's a bunch of whales that are continuing to pile into ETH. 9 new whale addresses just bought $450 million of Ethereum. The Ethereum accumulation just keeps on going. And to wrap up this video, we do have a pretty interesting week. First of all, the rate cut odds are still in our favor with 87.3%. Let's see what happens, but ultimately it does look like we will be getting rate cuts in September. However, we do have some key milestones this week that we want to pay attention to. So yesterday we had the durable goods order month over month, and the actual came in much lower than expected, which is actually positive. Then we also have the GDP growth rate coming out tomorrow on Thursday, and on Friday it should be a pretty significant day. Core PCE price index month over month, personal income month over month, and personal spending month over month. And then of course, next week we are already into September, which we could potentially be seeing that initial sign of a significant correction in the market. Let's see what happens, but right now my base case is that if we can reclaim $112,000 and move on higher, Ethereum would likely be bouncing much higher than Bitcoin, and this could also provide a little bit of temporary relief to altcoins. I still think that we will likely have a deeper pullback, but the real question is, when will it happen? And that sums up today's video. We got another decent bounce from the range lows, but how much longer can we hold on? Because the more and more that we tap into these levels, the more and more likely that Bitcoin will correct even further. That being said, from this correction, I am anticipating that this week we could get a little bit more of a bounce, Bitcoin hopefully reclaiming $112,000, and it's at that point that we could talk about Ethereum potentially targeting 5K before a potential correction.